reconvene this meeting at 10:04. Okay, gentlemen, you've been provided with a written version of the proposal. At this time, do you have any questions? Or,
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Ernie.
No, I do. I mean, I think it's necessary that we do have this to get a,
okay, so that sounds like a motion,
yes.
okay? Okay, so motion from Ernie. Is there a second?
How long would this last until we get somebody, it looks like a proposal for permanent, services.
It says it can be terminated in 30 days.
30 days, I think it says interim too.
Right.
Okay, so I'm actually, well, go ahead. You take the second for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. For discussion or a second?
Second.
Second, okay, good. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion or questions for the presenter? No, we're good, we're good?
Well, I just, it looks like a permanent, contract. Do we, they're just gonna come in for a couple of weeks until we get somebody in? What is the minimum time that?
Oh, a
they
month.
do this?
A month.
They'll do it for 1 month, okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah, that's my interpretation of a month. Is that accurate?
Right,
Okay.
and it does say interim services.
Yes,
so.
these are interim. This isn't a long-term contract.
Okay.
You know, we've got a lot of decisions to make, and I think I see a glide path here that we can move through. But it starts with this, of having, you know, competent folks, making sure there's no gaps in coverage, candidly, you know, that we have competent, credible folks at the helm.
And this is over and above the, audit that we're gonna do.
Right.
Yes, this is actually providing services. This isn't just looking around. This is, we're going to make sure your bills get paid. And, you know, my interpretation of this proposal is that, you know, design, implementation, maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation, ensure the entity complies with laws and regulations. I'm all about these things. Let's be transparent. Let's stay inside the law.
Okay.
So, good things. Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? No? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. I'm abstaining because we haven't already established potential conflict. So it's with the secretary. So let's do it. Okay.
Yep.
Good. All right. So that's that. We've got we have the key functions covered. Let's move forward. So the business and finance manager position.
This is where you inserted transformation of B.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So let's have a copy of that in here somewhere, right? What's your thing? Anyway, Mr. Miller, I guess I will present this. Mr. Miller presented his resignation effective last Friday, February 10th. And the board will have to accept his resignation as drafted or amended. We can encourage the negotiation of extension, I think, or we can accept it straight up and down.
Okay. I would accept the letter of resignation with one caveat that he would stay on until the 28th of February.
So change the date from February 10th to February 28th?
Yes.
Okay, with normal benefits and everything
Yes.
continued, okay?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, as amended to accept his resignation effective February 28th.
That'll be 2 weeks for Ms. Makos, for her to give her notice, and then give them some overlap for a few days there, before she would completely take over.
Okay,
And I think that's being fair to her.
okay. All right, so, a motion and a second. All those, no, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Accepted his resignation. Oops, sorry. 10-10, time to correct. Okay. Business and finance manager position, do we have,
Offer of employment.
you have an offer of employment? I'll draft it up.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I can help you with that draft
And
as
there's
well.
a copy of this for everybody here.
Okay. And who negotiated this?
It's not negotiated, this is what we're talking about.
She can't accept it because it hasn't been extended.
No, but
Yeah,
I mean,
she
she
would
will
have,
accept it.
it would have to be extended, and it has not.
Cause this is, I feel like maybe someone's overstepped here.
Well,
It's the board's position to negotiate employment for the two key administrators.
okay,
Okay, okay, so,
this is a guide to go by, this is.
I gotcha, so this is what you're suggesting,
This
we
is a
start with,
suggestion, yes.
okay. Up to and including this, wow. The, do we have any comparables, like McGladrey or anything like that on the salary recommendation? Do we know how this was arrived?
That's, Mr. Miller discussed this with her, and this is Mr. Miller's salary. She said that she would accept his salary. And then, with this,
Who empowered Mr. Miller to negotiate on behalf of the board?
nobody, he just contacted the lady and asked her if that's what she would accept. This is what he was gonna bring it as a, we're gonna have some point to start with.
Yeah, I hear you. It's, okay, so, good news, the essential functions we've covered, so we have some breathing room to consider this. I've not had an opportunity yet to meet with Ms. Bakos even yet, or interview her. I feel like, if we're going to, my thinking is it would make sense to develop a budget and, wait for the audit process to come through to see what we really need, because we might be able to use some of this $93,600 to be able to pay for a reading coach or a math coach if we find out that we don't need, that we can get away with just a bookkeeper. So once Optima's in the building, they can kind of get a sense for what our essential functions are. And as I've said numerous times, like, I'm all about growing internal candidates, like Ms. Maria. I think we're supposed to have an action item here later about that.
Yeah, it's under number 3.
Okay, it's under number
Yeah.
3, okay, good. And that's kind of the will, is if we have talent inside the building, let's figure out what we already have that we can grow.
Okay.
And then, like, let's revisit this position. That would be, to my mind, that would be the most logical approach, that's not really personality driven, that's policy driven, and to stick to what's best for the schools, to kind of get a sense for where we are, what our current assets are, kind of inventory our own gear, and then figure out what we need, and then move forward. I'm certainly open to it in the future. I just don't think that, given all the change, and Mayor Tyson, you said last meeting you don't like change, so I'm trying to keep that to a minimum, keep from stressing you out. That we would allow Optima to get in here, understand what's going on, what our current staff strengths are, and where we can take those monies and maybe, distribute some of those funds to our hardworking employees.
Well, there was 3 positions.
Yeah.
One, for administration, to have a supervisor for the janitor,
Okay,
and then the lunchroom.
okay,
And,
all right,
to recommend that those people be promoted, given a lead position with a slight increase in their salary,
okay,
which would take that burden off, which is stuff that Mr. Miller does now.
okay,
Take that burden off of her. So
Okay.
she does,
So-
so that's kind of the whole thing.
So the recommendation was to pay her as much as Mr. Miller with less responsibilities.
That's right.
Okay, that's one approach. I'm, to that point, I'm all for growing our own and making sense what that position looks like after that, and maybe those resources are better spent on, teachers or curriculum or whatever Optima finds we should spend those monies on. So I'm not comfortable committing to this today. If we need to.
Well, at what
special
point are
meeting.
we gonna talk to her, because we chance to get 2 weeks, whether
Well-
she accepts.
Well, they're going to do their audit and all their stuff, and then, I mean,
So we can't make an offer to her until after they finish their audit. Wow. I'm not happy with that.
Okay. So, is there any motion at this time?
Yeah, I got a motion to accept this offer, her offer.
Okay, the motion to extend an offer to Mrs. Bakos, as drafted. Is there a second?
I think we need to wait.
Hearing no second, the motion fails.
Okay.
Nice try, Mr. Tyson.
Yeah.
We're going to fill a position, and what it looks like is gonna be driven by what the best needs of the school are, and not someone else's timeline or things like that, and I think that's what's best. Okay, cool, and she's, she'll always be considered, any applicant can come forward, when we determine what that position looks like, so
Okay.
there's that. Again, the good news is we have those key functions covered. Okay, so we have a motion and,
Since this about, Miss Maria's part, is supposed to be part of that.
oh,
Yes, as well.
yeah, okay, so now entertain a motion, that excludes business and finance, but carries the rest of it. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Wilson makes that motion. I'll second it. I'm allowed to do that. I can't make a motion, but I can second it. Yeah, I think it's a good policy. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. So now we've moved from personnel, we're on to policy. Let's do it. Okay, we have, Optima, do you have anything else? Or do you have to run out, or can you stay for the remainder of the meeting if we have questions after?
I can stay for another about 15 minutes actually, and I can stay longer if you need. Yeah, Susan will stay.
Susan will be here? Okay, perfect. Okay then.
Before I do leave, just further to your conversation just now, one of the things that we will look at is your staffing plan and salary comparisons. So that's information that the board will also get when we look at the staffing plan here and kind of what a model staffing plan might be and what those salaries look like. So that could inform your decision making in the future.
Perfect. Outstanding. Okay. All right, so we've moved from that. We are now on to approved board policy, final edits 2800 policy on parent complaints, HB 1557, 2900 policy on FERPA and educational services, policy 2150, policy on dismissal of students. It is recommended by me.
Thank you, guys.
Technically, thank you.
Thank you.
Technically, it was mostly Mr. Potter doing all the work on this, so if you have any questions, you can direct them to him.
Yes.
But these all came through our lawyer, and at this time, Mr. Potter, you're recognized to explain the policy.
Yes, very quickly, you have 3 up for potential adoption by action today. 2800 policy on parent complaints, which is in pursuit of implementing the intent of House Bill 1557 and recommended by Attorney Arnold as it's written. 2900 policy on FERPA and educational services. As well, that's handling of records and student privacy, etc. I think you've had that one for 2 months as well. And policy on dismissal of students, that one in particular I know was of importance to the board since the outset when I joined you to ensure that there was something in place, given some feelings and observations related to past practice. So that particular one thing I would just note there is that if you have a student with an IEP, a student under special services, a student who is on that, even on that pathway, or potentially suspected to need that pathway, there needs to be a protocol there for removal that would be possible removal, because that's a change in program under the law, under ESE regulations, under federal law. So that would require a meeting. A meeting is called a manifestation meeting. This is something that the charter high school does routinely as well. And in that meeting, there's a team that's assembled, okay? Would be Ms. Holton, obviously, a representation from the administration, parent, etc. And there are certain questions that you have to ask. You have to look at the child's disability. You have to ask the question of whether the disability is actually causal in terms of the student's behavior, okay? If it is, there are certain ways you have to react to that. If it is not, then you essentially can treat the circumstance like someone who is not under the umbrella of special services. So the recommendation there strongly is to follow that process if there is a student that would fall into those categories. If it's a student that is not, like a general ed situation, then that meeting would not necessarily take place. That would be more at the discretion of the principal. So my acting in that manner protects you as a board and your liability with respect to special education law, and it's something that's really important that we have on the books. So I certainly recommend approval as it's written.
There you go.
But I guess I should finish to
Yeah, I was
say
gonna say, you gotta finish all
that
these.
team can
Right.
make recommendations. And if that team makes recommendations, like for instance, this environment and the services that we provide or don't provide are not in the best interest of supporting that student, the team can make a recommendation that that student should go to either his own school or another situation, that kind of thing. If it's a real severe incident where, let's say, there's a weapon on campus, something really significant, and if a student were to join any school in Indian River County and might otherwise have to go to alternative placement for that behavior, then the team can also pass that recommendation on to IRC, and they can do what they will with it, essentially. So knowing a little bit about how students enter into situations, having been under some kind of serious behavior situation like that, they're more than likely to follow that in a severe incident case. But there's nothing that precludes that team from making a recommendation to remove student from here. Yeah, but it's a process.
And again, this has all been lawyered. Right?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve this.
Mr. Wilson makes a motion to approve. Mr. Tyson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Board policy draft 2100, policy on admission of students, first reading. Mr. Potter.
Yes, again, this one was sent by Attorney Arnold as well. It was included in your packet to look at, have an opportunity to review that over the next month. So we have the next meeting. Certainly feel free to ask questions, forward those questions to me if you have any. Essentially, it's covering the required aspects of what enrolling in a charter school is, okay? Language certainly around the enrollment by lottery if necessary. If the interest at a particular grade level is higher than the slots that we have available, then that is a required lottery that occurs. In that case, it's something you've been doing for a number of years as well. There are preferences granted in there. Preference number 1, children of current governing board members and school employees are given a preference. Preference 2, siblings of enrolled K-5 students as well. Presently, we have accepted forms from all but just I guess a couple, 1 or 2 currently existing and attending students that are interested in returning next year, okay? So we have a good feel and a good understanding of where that is. It's very strong in terms of the interest of families returning here. And we have a couple of events scheduled for new families that are interested in learning about us and potentially filling out an interest form for coming. So this sets up those procedures. There is a blank in there under E, lottery procedures. Insert the name of a system. We can come up with a name of a system fairly easily. Waiting lists are covered as well. Again, nothing new for y'all. And then it gives you kind of the process and the procedures laid out for you in a sequential manner. So if there are any questions about it at this point, I'm glad to entertain them. Again, if you come up with them during the month, please shoot them on my way. It'd be great. Okay.
All right. No action to be taken on that, so we can let that roll over to second reading. Okay, board member recruitment and appointment process and bylaws, Mr. Frost. Well, we clearly have some board vacancies to fill here. We can have up to 7. We currently have 4 now, qualified board members. So we're going to need to recruit and onboard some board members. Mr. Tyson, you said you're willing to stay through June. And Mr. Wilson, you said?
Well, I'll stay as long as we.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, with the target for June to hopefully be.
Whatever.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. Okay, so we needed a process to kind of do that, and I just threw together what I thought made the most sense from an organizational standpoint, what I've seen in other charter schools work. Basically, just you come to a meeting, you have to observe the meeting, and then reach out to. Pull it up here. Sorry, just because I wrote it doesn't mean I remember it all.
There's a question of term limits.
Yeah.
Have you got anything in there on that?
No, I'm silent on term limits. I love term limits for elected officials in public office because that becomes a career, whereas in nonprofits, term limits may not always be the best thing because stability on a board is a good thing. We saw that with this board, that it had a lot of stability, and then I think that
Well, I understand that the governor is all for term limits.
for school board members, yeah, not charter
Yeah,
school
for
board.
regular school board members, but
Yeah.
also for all municipal people, down to municipal, which means they would put term limits on city council people.
Yeah.
So, which I don't think is a good idea.
You don't think that's a good idea?
No.
So a city mayor doesn't think term limits are a good idea? How long have you been on the board, or been on the city council, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I've been on city council for 22 years.
There you go.
But the mayor of Okeechobee, he just got an award for being on there for 40 years. He's been on city council, he's the mayor for.
I'm glad Erica's not here. May I borrow this? I'm so sorry. We can live together. All right, so you have it, but are there any questions about this process or how it might work? The main thing is making sure it's a transparent process where everyone gets a fair hearing. It comes through the board, which is the appropriate path without any kind of gatekeeper. We see every resume, we see every application. We make sure that our compliance is tight by making sure that they don't serve on the board for a number of years without any the necessary training or things like that. And then make sure they have their documents ahead of time.
And there's one point to be made about the bylaws. As I understand, the last time the bylaws were updated, 2012. Since then, at some point, there was a decision to eliminate the staggered terms.
Oh.
And everyone goes on a 1 year. So everybody's been on a 1 year for some time, but that's not reflected in your bylaws. So I'm sure Optima will pick up on that. In fact, I've already shared the bylaws with Susan, but they don't completely match up with your series you've passed in the 1000 series. So we have to go through those, make sure the bylaws get updated so that they are reflective of the policy change. And there are just a few edits, but that's one of them. It's a major one. So someone coming on board isn't told, well, and you can change that if you wish. There's certainly discussion to come, but whoever's joining, are you joining for a 1 year term, 3 year term, a 2 year term? What are we doing and how? So that has to be
That's a great thing, so.
But you're all presently on 1 year, so,
Right,
at a time.
yeah, and it's through June, is
Right.
what I think's in the bylaws.
Right.
And so we will await some counsel some research gathering from Optima, and then call a workshop for, addressing our bylaws, and then we'll have a hearing on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pull up to a board meeting, but for now, we will use whatever the current model is and roll them through that process, so, that's pretty much it. I think this represents the best thinking for now, and again, this is a procedure, not a policy, so
Yes.
it's, we don't necessarily even need to vote on it, but if you want to, we can. That's probably the best we do, just so that we're all on the same page. So at this time, let's start with a motion in a second, then we can have discussion.
I'll
So,
make a motion.
okay, so,
I'll second.
okay, so, ready with a motion? Joel with a second. Okay, now, further discussion, do we speak to the motion?
Everything I read in there, it seems up to date. And that way, everybody, before they come on, are going to, will know their background and everything, which
Well,
is.
in both ways, they're gonna know
No less.
the unique character of the school, so we're not gonna have them try to make it into a district school.
Right.
And that's a key concern of Mr. Miller's and everyone on this board.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
we don't wanna become another district school with less funding. That's not a winning business model.
No.
We wanna become a school of first choice, not last resort. So, perfect. Okay, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 3-0, okay, so I'm going to need a little guidance from Ms. Turner on how to phrase this. Would it be for the board to instruct Optima to craft an RFP, or to, what would be the appropriate posture to place this in? For financial audit?
What we've done is have the board form an audit committee, and the audit committee is supposed to then review the RFP and make a recommendation to the board. I'd have to double check
Okay.
statute on that, whether the committee is required, but we can develop an RFP and bring it for the board to approve.
Okay,
Or-
and that was my thing, is so the board can serve as a committee of the whole, or the audit committee could be a committee of the whole, which is the executive board,
Yeah.
and we appoint ourselves to the audit committee until such time as that could, okay. So let's do that, because I wanna move forward with the RFP, and if we need to form a committee, you all know how I feel about government, and we don't necessarily need more of it, but if that's required and it creates more transparency and separation of duties, I'm all for it. But I feel like we need to move forward with an RFP at least, so we get some proposals for an audit, so.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Ernie with a motion, to instruct, okay, whatever is necessary. And then, in further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Look at that, we've done some good work. We're on to reports. That's the end of our action agenda. That's parental involvement committee, not parent. It's okay, the agenda. Mrs. Bryant, you are recognized. Do you have anything to share with the?
Yes, so we will be reopening the media center. Everything is ready to go, or almost ready to go, but it will be on February 27th will be the first day of the reopening. We're just waiting for one more volunteer spot to be filled, and the kids will be able to go to the library. Ms. Irons made the schedule. The kids are excited, the teachers are excited, so that's a big deal. We're also kicking off like a literacy month in March, so we're gonna try and piggyback that with a readathon fundraiser, but there's a lot to get underway. But we have the rest of the year planned out, we're ready to go, and once this year finishes, we can start next year.
Awesome, great. Thanks so much for all your work. Anything else? Okay, all right.
Thank you, it's wonderful. It's nice.
All right, next report. So you, Mr. Potter?
Yes, you
You're
have a
recognized.
copy of my written report. I'll skip over the first part because you have dealt with all of those issues and other actions today. So good work. I know it's tough work and difficult work, but we're on a good pathway and we are moving forward. So I'll share with you a little bit about what we've been doing on the educational side of things. I'm excited to welcome Optima to come in and help and look at some things on that side of the house as well, which is very, very important. It's what we do. It's where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. we have had an inaugural meeting of our guiding coalition committee, which is an instructional leadership team. If you remember my presentation from last month, we talked about implementing a process using a protocol promoted by the book Learning by Doing, which is, I don't want to say it's building a plane while it's in the air, but you are working on these things while you're delivering instruction and you're trying to improve upon it. So we did an article study on what the power of collective effectiveness of such committees is all about, what the research says about that. I think that was pretty well received. We began looking at the introduction to the book, and the long and the short of that book, the process is we need to begin to build out our curriculum. We need to get the curriculum in writing. We need pacing guides. We need maps for how everything is going to be laid out through the year. The district has worked on that over the years, and they have very well defined documents. Okay, we need a way to house that information, hopefully a digital way. We have a demo for the committee coming up this Thursday afternoon by a company called Power School that offers a platform called Chalk. So it's a look-see, see if it's something we like, see if it's something we might be able to utilize. So we'll be looking at that, and we'll be continuing to look at that process of how we conduct that work together, much more sort of uniformly up and down the chain, so to speak, from VPK, who's Ms. Williams is part of that committee, all the way up to 5th grade, and across the different discipline areas of the course material and so forth that we offer from VPK on up to 5th grade. So I'm excited to get that process started and get that moving. It's going to be a work in progress, but I think you'll see it over some time begin to take some shape. Very important that we look at the most critical and essential standards and benchmarks that the kids need to learn, and how we respond to that when they don't learn it, how we come back around to support them, ensuring that they do learn those critical, essential standards. So you've all heard about the Florida Best Standards. Obviously in math and ELA, they are new. This year's a new year of implementation of those. So we need to, it's a good time to be doing this work because we're going to need to incorporate the Florida Best Standards into this work and have good discussions about how much time to spend on each of those standards and which ones are more important than others, etc., as we work through the protocol. But all that work has to be done, which will lead us eventually to, hopefully a year out, we'll look in much better shape presently than kind of what we have is a collection of different things happening, and you'll probably hear that from Optima, that K's doing this, 1st grade's doing that. You know, expect that because that's what you're gonna hear, and then we're gonna have some thoughts about how we move forward and catalog that work. One of the things we're doing with those committee meetings, we're having sort of a minute to win it challenge with the group, which is a team effort that everybody has to do something. We have to help each other out in order to get there before anybody can leave the meeting. So I have pictures of Mr. Fallis trying to get a cookie from his forehead into his mouth without touching it with his hands, and a bunch of people standing around him coaching him on how to actually do that. Now that may sound a little silly, but you know, teams help each other to have success, right? So we're going to emphasize that before we leave every time we meet, because that is the purpose of what we're doing. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay.
Can I say something real quick? I know
Yeah, of course, you're recognized. Assistant Principal's report, kick it off.
I just wanted to say that, I know that you all maybe hear different things from where you sit than where I sit, and I've had families, I've had individuals reaching out to me about the school, saying that they see all the positive changes. They see the things that we're putting out there in the community. They're seeing things on Facebook, they're seeing things on the website, they're hearing good things about Mr. Potter, good things about what direction the school is going, and I'm getting a lot of that feedback. I've gotten a lot of it in the past month, and I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that that's getting back to me at least. So people see it, they see what we're doing, and they know that we're trying to move in a positive direction. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that that's happening out there, because I don't know that that message is getting to you guys. But
It's important when we start talking about recruiting and getting new students in.
Yeah.
Cause I think we've gotten some bad publicity, and people maybe, reluctant to, I mean, it used to be everybody wanted to come out to the charter school.
Right.
But I think that kind of went away for a while, and maybe it's coming back now from what you're saying. That is really good news.
Right, well, we have a, orientation night, what night is it?
Yes, on the 23rd.
23rd,
So
from 6 to
next,
7.
yeah.
We would love
Week
for,
from
if you're
Thursday?
able to attend our orientation, we would love for
What
you to
time?
be able to be
6
there.
p.m. in the auditorium next Thursday, week from Thursday,
We
so
have 2 planned, and that's our first one,
Okay.
so, and it's an
What date's that?
informational session.
23rd,
23rd?
yeah.
It's gonna be for new families, not returning families, it's gonna be for new families that are interested, and they're going to know what our school's all about, and we're gonna give them the facts, and this is what our school is, this is what we're all about, and we'll go from there, and if they're interested, they can follow the processes that we've talked about, and, hopefully we can get that enrollment back up for next year.
Great.
So,
What time is it?
6 to 7.
6:30,
Yeah.
6 to 7.
Yeah.
Has to be daylight. I'm like, proud.
I understand.
I can't.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad to hear it, and I appreciate you sharing it with us, but I'm also glad that you're hearing it, because I know you heard a whole lot of different feedback for a long time, and I appreciate you
I'm still hearing some of
enduring.
that too.
I'm sure that, listen, it's about trends, right? The polling is trending positive. Our favorables are coming up, our unfavorables are going down. Sorry, that's kind of how my brain works sometimes. We're moving in the right direction, to your point. I'm excited that we're gonna start telling the good news of North County Charter School. And I would say let's not discourage current families from coming in and really getting a sense of what we're really about, because they may have not, they may have not bought into, completely or really understand what our original chart was, because for a while there, we didn't do a very good job of explaining what our unique proposition to the community is.
We've
So-
had a number ask, and we've said, it's not mandatory, but they're
Yeah,
certainly invited to
perfect.
come. We've used some of the traditional means of advertising this first one. We'll see what the response is. I have a meeting with a marketing agency this week to look
Okay.
at some other, thank you for the recommendation. This person seems awesome, but at least.
Evergreen?
Yes, Evergreen.
Julie?
Evergreen, yes.
Yeah, Julie's great.
So, at least talk with her to see what digital options are available. We'll see what our response is on the 23rd. And then between then and March 14th, perhaps we might look at another way of sort of getting the word out, more targeted marketing. And, see if we can make sure we have a lot of people coming in to listen to what we've got.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fix the fundamentals, and then we start marketing it, and all good things moving in the right direction. Perfect. So thank you both for those financial statements for November 30th, 2023. Mr. Potter, you're recognized. Did you want to present this, or just let's wait until Optima gets in?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was something that Mr. Miller added in
Okay.
Friday,
gotcha.
but I haven't had a chance.
Gotcha. It's okay. Well, we can get an income statement next month, hopefully, and we can actually make those
But you
decisions.
do-
And our
You do
agenda.
have one from November in your packet, though.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's perfect. Our agenda, I would like in that income statement, and every agenda going forward, I want our enrollment number to be on the front there, so we're watching that go up and grow up. That will be one of our metrics that we track in the dashboard, because that's how we know if we're winning. Is if our students are doing such a great job learning that they're attracting other students, and that's really what it's about. So making sure lots of kids learn. Okay, so I hate that we have to do this now. Okay, so we're doing so well. Mr. Potter, the Department of Agriculture and NSLP determination, do you want to discuss that, or just a
Yeah.
brief summary, and then I
Yes.
can explain it to us a little
Okay.
better next time?
As I understand it, the Department of Agriculture provided notice January 5th to the school with an additional request, an opportunity to send a corrective action plan in. Ms. Smith worked with Mr. Miller to submit a lengthy packet, sent it by certified mail on January 10th. So that went forward as requested. But unfortunately, a letter that you have in your packet has expressed that it wasn't suffice, and I don't know all of the particulars and ins and outs of it at this point. I know Mr. Miller has explained some of it to y'all over the past few months. However, Department of Agriculture has suspended us from the National School Lunch Program for a period of 1 year. That was initiated as of January 5th. So I believe that the work that's ahead of us is gonna need to focus on, well, how do we get that back up to snuff? Do we need to appeal it? Which is a 30-day window to issue that appeal, which has to be adjudicated? Or do we look at starting over and making a new application for the next cycle with everything that's necessary? So it's gonna be critical to have good support in that area. So that being said, I've been told it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 90,000 in funds that we are not going to receive, dating back as far as June. And as we move forward and complete this semester, that number will continue to grow. If we continue to offer, obviously, a free breakfast and a free lunch at North County.
Right. To be clear, I'm not comfortable changing the current level of service we're asking parents to pay until we get our own selves in order. This was,
Can we appeal? I mean,
There is an appeals process.
yes, and that's,
why would we not try to do that?
we have
When I
once,
spoke to Ken, he said his intent
Twice.
was to complete that.
We did
so-
twice.
We
Yeah.
did it twice.
and
They
Um,
didn't accept it.
They said there was insufficient information.
Did
One
they
of
tell
them,
you what information they need?
one of them was Mr. Miller, I think was supposed to go to another training or something. Another one was because, they wanted to know
And civil rights training.
a civil rights training. And then there was another one, that we didn't serve like a greens on a week, so Mr. Miller sent them paperwork explaining that due to the COVID, he wasn't able to find like whole grains or the greens, so he had to substitute, but it wasn't enough for them. He has a stack in the corner of his desk, like this big of everything. And the thing is, every time you call those people, there's somebody different.
Oh,
So
That's
you're not
true.
working with someone, somebody comes in and they don't see the whole picture because they just came in, they just see the end of it. So,
okay, well, that will be a priority to reverse, we'll leave that at the
Yeah.
administrative level. From the board level, we're going to have to create a budget that accepts that as a reality, which is all the more reason not to necessarily offer a massive salary to someone before we get a sense of what the school really needs.
I
'Cause
have the
our-
edit checks for every month if you need to see them. I
Okay.
still do them so we can see how much money we're,
Okay,
Yeah.
good, so, yeah, we need to make sure we're feeding kids before
Yes.
we start offering salaries. Okay, all right, well, that's a report, so there's nothing to do. Board member matters, I just wanna thank the board for your volunteer service, to the board. It's been a tough day, it's been a good day though. It's been a good day in my opinion. We've done some good work here. I appreciate it. We've stabilized the school. We're trending in a positive way. We're treating each other with respect. We have a staffing plan that works. We're gonna have a finance plan that works. We already have our academic side in much, much better shape than when, at least, well, I can speak from when I came on board. I can't speak to before that. I can only speak to my personal experience. But I would like to end with one idea, and that's for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. That's in 2 Timothy. And I've been reading that a lot, and I'm trying to stick with it and make good decisions and lead with integrity. And I appreciate y'all doing the same and putting kids first, and students first, and staff.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So that's my item. Does anyone else have any other board member matters? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all. 10:48.
10:48.
So much change. Sorry, Mr. President.
I know.
Sorry, Mayor Tyson. There was a lot of change today, but it was good change. It wasn't Hopi change. It was good. And these will be over in, wherever our board office is. Is it still outside of the business and finance, or are we moving it over to where you are?
I didn't know we had
We'll
one.
figure it out. Well, we kind of established it because I wanted to have it like one place where like all our binders and
Yeah,
books are and our mail goes and.
I think in front of where Mr. Miller is,
That
that
makes
desk
sense.
right there, maybe we could start it there.
Yeah, that was kind of where we discussed. it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know.
That's perfect. And that's where we can kind of get our discussions.
Ah!
Just saying.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Keep this stuff all straight
Yeah.
now. But, yeah, Hard process.
Yep. So Sean,